Welcome to Digitally Creative. I'm your host, Vincent Ferrari, and joining me this week is my good friend and artist and talented digital artist, the one and only Rebekah Cole. Hi, Beck. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. In case you can't tell, she's from the Bronx. Um,
Definitely.
no, she's from Melbourne.
Yes, on
Yes.
the other side of the world.
Yes, and it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and she's talking to me. It's 6 o'clock Sunday, the 30th, as we're doing this, so the day before Halloween.
Yep. So
I like to tell people that because what ends up happening is people will donate, and then it's like, why didn't you mention my name in the show? It's like, oh, because I recorded 3 episodes between the time you donated and the time you got. So this is we're recording episode 3 before episode 2 drops, which is kind of neat. I like that. I
yeah,
like to be a little bit ahead. So,
that
how
works.
was your weekend? I saw you did a craft fair this weekend in Victoria.
Yeah, it went really well. So I had a store at the Queen Vic Market, which is probably one of Melbourne's biggest markets.
Hmm.
And they've got like a row just dedicated to arts and crafts now,
Oh,
which is
nice.
awesome because it used to be mostly like souvenirs and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a really good day. It went really well and really good
Do you
day
do?
out.
I've noticed, and I don't know, maybe I'm just noticing it more, but it seems like you're doing more of those. Like, are you trying to get out
Yeah.
to more shows? Like, trying to really just put your stuff out there more? Is that intentional?
Yeah, definitely. I'm
Okay,
just kind
great.
of like, it's kind of market season around here. Like it always seems to pick up around about Christmas time. So
Hmm.
I'm just kind of trying to do as many of them as I can at the moment. I think I've got one a month now until June next year. So all
That's
booked out.
fantastic. That's fantastic. Wow. So
Yeah.
do you ever, because like I know like people that are like craftsman types, like people like me that do woodwork and people that do metalwork and stuff like that. When you're doing a craft show, the amount of inventory you have to prepare is always kind of wild. So what kind of stuff do you bring to these shows? Do you just have a bunch of prints? Do you do a bunch of single one-off original art? Like what kind of stuff do you bring to these shows?
I bring a bit of a mix of everything. So there is a lot of like digital prints and stuff, which I
Hmm.
can kind of like bulk print those. So that's
Right.
nice and easy and fast to get out. But the real popular one is like vinyl stickers. And I've started making like these little desk lamps as well, which are like
Oh
3D
my
printed.
God, they're so great. Those are so great.
I love
I
them so much.
I love how you've, for those of you that haven't seen Beck's style, and if you're watching the video, I'll put some of the stuff up as we're talking. But if you haven't seen her style, just the idea of it being in 3 dimensions was just like wild. And the first one, you just started making these because I
Oh
feel
yeah.
like I saw the first one go into your feed, and I'm like, no way, she's doing her stuff in 3D now. So like all these characters, because your style is generally a flat style, like it's very flat, cartoon, like almost children's cartoon kind of style.
Yeah, definitely. Very flat, very kind of like children's book or like
Yes.
animated TV show kind of style.
Children's book with what I like to call LSD pupils.
Yes, definitely.
I
With
was trying to describe your work to a friend of mine today. She goes, "Oh, who are you recording the podcast with?" It's like, "Oh, my friend, she's an artist in Australia. It's amazing." She goes, "Oh, what kind of art does she do?" I said, "Hard to describe." It's kind of like illustrative. Like I really children's book was the first thing that came to my mind too. I said, but the characters all have like really dilated pupils, and it's such a cool style. But what made you decide to like move into like 3D for these lamps? Like that's a major step for you.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, I've always kind of been interested in 3D printing and stuff, and we managed to get one for free like a couple of years ago, and then I
Oh,
just kind of
great.
got on the back burner for a little bit. But then my partner bought me a resin printer for Christmas last year,
Uh,
so
the, oh boy.
phew, game
Once
changer.
you get it working, it's amazing.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I broke the screen on it the first time I used it because I wasn't too sure what I was doing, but it's working perfectly now.
Every resin printer has a replaceable screen for a
Yes,
reason because
exactly.
everyone breaks them. But what I have found out, and this is interesting, I was watching some kind of video about, things you're doing wrong when you first start resin printing because I've had terrible luck resin printing until I got the printer I just got, which was my thing of the week last week, which is the Frozen Sonic Mini 8K. Um, I had terrible luck with them. But what I ended up hearing from a bunch of people is to go to like get a tempered glass screen protector, like the
Oh,
kind that they use on phones and tablets, and put that on the LCD. And this way, even if like resin, the big problem you have is that resin comes through the film at the bottom and ends up on your screen, and you're screwed because it cures to the screen. So, but at least with a screen protector, you can peel off the screen protector and just put another one down. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a really good idea.
That's a smart idea. Yeah, I
Yeah.
might need to do that when I replace the screen next time.
Yeah, it's once you've used the screen for a while, it doesn't make just like let it go and run. You're probably not going to do that again either. It was probably just
Yeah.
did it crush going down?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I left a little like just a little bit of cured resin in there and it just pushed it right into the screen and
that's all it takes. That's
cracked.
all it takes. That little bit of you'd be amazed how that little bit of flex can screw things
Ah,
up. But yeah, the lamps are awesome. I saw you had a thing in your story. You had a thing in your story where a customer bought one and she was so happy to have it. And it's
ah,
like,
she loved
is,
it. She messaged me on Instagram and she was just like, "Oh, I really want one." Like this was when I was just making them and putting like the work in progress photos up. So she
mhm.
messaged me saying like, "Tell me when they're done because I want one." And I'm just like, "Okay." So excited about that.
Isn't it great, like, when you're kind of, like, noodling around an idea, and almost immediately
Yeah.
somebody comes in and says, "I want one of those." You're like, "Okay, good. I've sold at least one.
Yes,
Excellent."
exactly. And
The
it's just
trial
like
balloon.
but it's also kind of like, I really hope that these turned out okay, like, I need to make this work because somebody has already basically bought one.
That's
Um,
great.
and then yeah, when I completed it and she's just like, "Yeah, how can I come pick it up?" I'm like, "I'm at the market," and she's only like, the next suburb over, so
Oh,
worked
nice.
out perfectly.
Nice. Yeah, at least you didn't have to ship it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a little nervous about the potential of selling these online and shipping them, but I'm sure I'll figure it out and make it work.
Your price on them, I think, is probably too generous, but I always think everybody's not charging enough for their stuff. I get told I don't charge enough for my stuff, so I think we always look at the stuff as like, "That's really cool, you should be charging more for it," but they're really, really cool. I
Thank you.
am I'm so amazed, it just seems like you know how to do, like, a lot of different things. So, how did you get started? Let's take a step back. How did you get started with art? And then how did that? Because I know you didn't start necessarily with digital. How did it start? How did you start with art, and then how did you move into digital? Because I think primarily now, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm
Mhm.
wrong, your art now is primarily digital.
Oh, definitely. I would
Okay.
say about 90% digital with a little bit of lino cutting thrown in.
Oh, nice.
So I'm I feel like I'm one of those people that are just kind of like, yeah, I started my art journey back when I was a kid, like, always
Mhm.
drawing, always had a pen in my hand. And my mum's an artist as well, so
Oh, that's
I like
great.
to say that I was doomed from the start.
Positive
Um,
art influences, let me tell you something, positive art influences are everything, because everyone that
mm,
ends up becoming an artist, with very few exceptions, there are exceptions, but just about everyone I've seen that ends up becoming an artist had either a parent or a very close relative that was an artist.
yeah.
And as they were a kid, that was what they saw. So it just was more normal than for someone who decided at age 35 that they were going to become an artist. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I feel like it's definitely a lot easier to get into it as well if you know other people that
Hmm.
are artists. It's like you got a little bit more of backup for it. Like,
Sure.
I know with art generally there's a little bit of pushback around from the people around you, so it's good to have like that bit of
Can't make a
backup where
living
it's like,
doing that.
yeah. Heard that a lot.
Uh-huh. So
Um,
you had a good positive influence as a younger age, and you were basically you were me, because you had probably had a box of crayons with you at all times, and
yep.
just kind of blossomed from there.
Pretty much, and just constantly drawing in the sidelines of my books in school and everything like that. And yeah, so I went to uni later on for graphic and digital design. Kind of thought that graphic design would be the way to go because it's like, creative, but more of a commercial creative. Um, like yes, you can make money from your art, but it's a lot more difficult, I guess, to doing graphic design for other people where there's a bit more demand for it.
Right, right.
Was kind of what was told to me around a little bit. So that's kind of the direction I went down. But then my third year project, I just kind of started leaning more into illustration again, and I was just like, I really want to do this. um,
That's great. I honestly think that, I know a lot of people that are artists now that did some kind of graphic design at some point. And I think those are the people that have turned their art into more of a business than having it as like
mm,
just a passion that they follow. Because when you do art commercially, you're of the mindset that it has commercial value. And I think that that's a big deal because a lot of people that do art don't think that their art has any commercial value until somebody goes, "Hey, this is really nice. You should be charging for it." And it's like, "Oh, yeah, I could charge for that, couldn't I?"
Yeah, I feel like
So,
when you've like done like the graphic design stuff as well, you've got a bit more of a background in like building brands as well. So it's
mhm.
you end up building it into more of a brand than a um I don't know, just like a oh, I've lost the words.
Instead of just a concept, you actually have a rock solid, like almost a portfolio for a brand identity, which is
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
great, and I mean, it's interesting because I kinda went the other way. Like, started I was creative long before I was being paid to be creative, and
Nice.
it's like, "Oh, I had to learn all this on the job," and I actually was showing someone, yesterday I had a visitor to my shop, and I was showing her, one of the first products I made the packaging for, 'cause my company's former warehouse is where my shop is located,
Yeah.
and I showed her, one of the first products, and then I showed her just the next version of the product, and you could immediately see, like, wow, and how far apart was that? Oh, that was 8 months apart,
Oh yeah,
and
like
it's like,
big difference in such a short time frame.
you get so fast at it too, like, you just start cranking out designs, it's
Yeah.
I was always amazed, I'm like, "How do you make a design that fast?" And now it's like, "Oh, I'm that guy," and people ask me how I do that now, so it's awesome.
Yeah, it's just like develop the skills enough that you can work on it nice and fast now.
So your day job, you still have a day job of doing, like, corporate graphic design work?
Yeah, my day job is graphic and web design. So
Perfect.
that's yeah, keeps me busy during the day and keeps the money flowing in, and then I can do all my side stuff on as soon as I finish work, basically, I jump straight onto the computer to draw.
Do you find that the cross pollination's making you better at one thing or the other? Because I know that for me, because I live at the day job, I'm almost in Adobe, even though it's not as much of my job function anymore. I still use Adobe Illustrator almost all day long.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's a lot of cross pollination where you learn something at work and you go, "Oh, that's going to help later," or vice versa, where you learn something at home and go, "Well, that solves the problem I'm having at work."
Yeah, 100%. Like, because you're using all the same programs and stuff, and it's just like, oh, I found a little tip or trick or something, and it's just like, I'm going to use this like tonight when I jump on my personal computer instantly. And then, like, with the web design stuff as well, it was just like, as soon as I learned how to do all of the web design and the coding for it and stuff, I'm just like, this is amazing. I'm going to make my own website now.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah, it's weird. You can kinda see the transition as you learn something at work. You can see your own personal work
yeah,
getting better. It's
exactly. And it's,
and they're
it's cool.
paying you to learn.
Yeah, and then it's also like you see like your actual work and stuff at work getting better as well, and you're just like, "Oh man, this feels
Mhm.
good." Like improving all over, and you see the progress.
There have been times I've tried to figure something out, for doing a design at home, and then I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be really helpful at work." Like, really helpful. In fact, then one of my next YouTube videos, one of my upcoming YouTube videos is a process that you and I talked about. And
Yes.
even you said, you're like, I don't know how to, I've never heard anyone do that. That's genius. And I'm like, yeah, it's just, I had to figure it out. I didn't have a choice. I just had to figure this out. And that's how I figured it
Yeah.
out. And it's like, once I figured that out for a cutting board, I have used it at work. I'm not even joking. I've used it at work about 20 times already.
It's
And
just
it's
coming
like,
so handy now.
yeah, yeah, it's just one of those weird things that, like, I didn't know how to do it before, and now I know how to do it, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, there's other people," like, when I told you and you're like, "I didn't know that," I'm like, "Okay, if she didn't know this, this is worth making a video about," because
Oh, yeah. It's definitely worth making a video about. Like when you made the video, I can tell you I'm going to be going back and rewatching it and just like I need to get this like method just like stuck in my head, so I'll rewatch the video a couple of times.
yeah, I love the fact that we're teasing a video on my YouTube channel because my YouTube channel's kinda back now, and it's like, "Yeah, that's right, my YouTube channel, go watch my YouTube channel, I have a
Stay
You"
tuned for this upcoming video.
So you make the transition. You got the corporate day job doing graphic design, and now you're doing your art, and your
Yeah.
art just starts taking off. Like it is taking off. You are. I don't know if you guys know this. I know this because we're friends, but she's been in the newspaper. Like there's been articles written about her because she's so good at what she does. Go ahead. Don't
Oh,
worry, I'll promote you, babe. We're good.
oh, thank you, thank you. Let's just leave out the part where it is a local newspaper still, but I'm still very proud of that.
Newspapers are newspapers. All
That's
print is good print, as they say. But
articles out there.
but you start to feel you probably at some point you start to feel the momentum building, and that's got to be like, wow, it's happening. Like it's
Yeah.
actually happening.
Especially over like the last couple of months as well, I've just been like, this is feeling really good. Like it feels like, the progression that is there in terms of like what I'm creating, the progression's there in terms of like the people that are seeing what I'm creating, and
Hmm.
then like the market's on top of that, and it's just like, oh, this stuff is selling. I'm just so happy all of the time now. Like this is all just, it's all
I love
happening.
it. I love it. I love that this is happening for you because I know that when you're doing this kind of stuff, obviously at some point the goal is to be doing it full time for yourself.
Yeah, that would be
And
amazing.
when the ball starts really rolling and it's like, okay, it may not be tomorrow, may not even be this year, but I can see the growth starting. Like there's a
Yeah.
snowball happening and it's just getting a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger.
100%. It's just like I can see that like end goal of making this like a bit more of like a regular job kind of thing than what uh, I don't know. I can see the end goal of maybe going down to like part-time at work or something. It's still very far off,
That's what
but
I
like
did. That's what
it
I did. I'm still not sure it was a smart decision, but I did it.
well, it's still kind of cool though because like even though like there might be like a little drop in the funds or something for a little bit, but like you're getting to work on the stuff that you want to work on so much
Yeah.
more, and that's worth
Yeah.
it itself.
I have been I always joke that I'm so productive in those 3 days
Hmm.
now, and it's like I'm okay with it. Like it was scary at first because it was it's a 20% pay cut,
Yeah, and it's a
and
big change
20% is a
too.
lot of money.
Oh, yes.
But, you just deal. Like, it's like, no, if I'm gonna make a run at it, 20%, if I can't cover 20%, it's never gonna be full time.
Mm,
And it's like that was my calculation, and so far, I mean, it's ups and downs, but I can totally understand where, if you start when the ball starts rolling to just start getting excited, and you can follow your passion project and turn it into your work and not have to do it for somebody else unless you want to. Like
yes.
all that. It's just all that.
Yeah, it's exciting just all of the ideas popping into your head and just the excitement for the future of it all. It's like, ah.
So what does your toolbox look like? What do you use to create? What are your applications, your computer
So
situation? What do you got going
most
on?
mostly I'm using Photoshop at the moment. So
Interesting.
that's what I use for all of my like digital drawings and stuff like that. And I think it might be just a little bit of a habit of like that's what I started in, so that's what I'm sticking to.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
um
Habits a powerful thing.
Yeah, 100%. And then I've got like a digital drawing tablet, so like a Wacom,
Mhm.
which I couldn't live without now. But yeah, recently with like the 3D modeling things, I'm jumping into Fusion 360 and giving that a shot. So
Nice.
that's been fun to learn. And
I would also recommend Blender if you wanna sculpt because it's just
yeah,
once you learn it, like, it's a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie, and it's completely different from Fusion, so you're gonna learn Fusion and Blender at the same time, your head's gonna explode, but, like, I did a couple of things where I was like, "There's no way I could have done this in Fusion," I needed to change an STL file, and I was like,
mm,
"You know what? The only way this is gonna get done," like, I wanted to change the shape of something, I was like, "I'm not gonna be able to do this in Fusion."
it
And
definitely happens
Blender is
to me.
great. And there's
Yeah.
the nice thing about both is that there's a ton of content online for both, so
Oh yeah, YouTube videos is just spot
mhm.
on for helping you to like to learn that stuff.
Yep. That's it's cool that you're, I know that you did some work for me a couple of months ago,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Yeah, is Photoshop okay?" I'm like, "Could you do it in Illustrator?" You're like, "That sounds like a fun challenge. Yeah, I'll do it in Illustrator." And I'm like, "Oh, no, like, did I just torture this poor girl?"
Oh no, I'm always like keen to try something else. And like I use
Mhm.
Illustrator anyway for like logo designs and things like that.
Sure.
And I feel like the style of my illustrations kind of translates into Illustrator quite well anyway. So
I
it's
just thought you did them in Illustrator. It's like when you said you did them in Photoshop, I'm like, "Wow, really?" Like, you're operating at, like, 48 megapixels or something to get something that's shot. Because your artwork is very so one a couple of characteristics of your artwork, there are large swaths of single colors with, little
Yep.
highlights and stuff. it's very flat and with only like minor shading, and there's a lot of line work. And that kind of illustration, it's just really weird to see. And I'm not saying you're doing it wrong, don't worry, but it's just really unusual to see that style of work being done in Photoshop. Like,
Yeah, it's definitely more commonly done in like Illustrator for other artists that are doing similar styles and
sure,
stuff. But
sure.
I think I just like to have that like feedback, I guess, of like when you draw the line and stuff, and just kind of feel like you're coloring in a coloring book rather than like using just like the fill colors and stuff that you get in Illustrator.
I really, if you guys aren't watching the video version of this show, by the way, if you guys aren't, Beck is sitting in front of a wall that she painted, and it is just, it's her work. I mean, she's like the cute purple-haired version of Jazza. So it's like seeing her wall behind her was something she painted. I'm totally getting Jazza vibes
Oh
like
my god,
watching it.
that is a massive compliment because Jazzo is just amazing.
I I love that dude. I really do.
Yeah.
Like you know, a lot of the stuff I watch, I'm like, okay, clearly you're just making content for the sake of making content, and yet I'm still watching this. It's like, you can't
But
help
he
yourself.
clearly like loves everything that he does as well. It's like, oh, let's just give this random thing a go and we'll make a video out of it. I'm just like, cool.
Well, that's the kind of person, especially in the artistic space. I feel like those are the kind of people that can really just drag creativity out of you. You know, his whole he uses the term kinesthetic learner a lot, and it's a term that I had never heard until he used it, and now it's something that I realize, like, oh no, that's you. Like, that's why you like Jazza. You know,
Yeah,
I'm watching Jazza and I'm like, yeah, I want to do this to see how it is. Like, I don't want to, if I'm interested in something, I want to take enough information to attempt it myself before I decide if I like it or not. And I watch him do stuff sometimes and I'm like, "Oh, you know, what was the one he just did? He just did a video where or he asked something where it was like, "Do you like when I have a plan and do research?" Oh, when he had his wife on. He's like,
yeah,
"Do you
yeah,
like when I plan or do research, or do you like it better when I just wing it and try to figure it out?" And everyone's like, "No, just wing it and try to figure it
yeah.
out." Like, well, don't do research. We like you stumbling through it at the beginning.
Yeah, it's like so much more entertaining, but it's also kind of just like that is like I feel like for me as well, that's like the best way to learn is just
Sure.
trying to do stuff.
Sure, you get I feel like for me, my best learning is dive into something, take your best attempt at it, and try to understand it. And
Yeah,
then once you have at least something, some kind of foundation, then find like tutorials, YouTube videos, whatever,
yeah,
and fill in your gaps and then strengthen the foundation, then start building on that. And I've found that that works really well for me.
yeah.
I don't know how it works for other people, but that's the way I learn the best.
I think that's the same with me as well. Like when it came to like the 3D modeling stuff as well. Like I had a bit of experience in like CAD software before,
Mhm.
but then like I hadn't used Fusion 360, so it was a bit of like jump in, have a play around, see how similar it is to what I'd done in the past, and then go to YouTube for those videos to like teach me how to do the things that I haven't figured out yet.
Mhm. I did one course when I was really like, I have to learn Fusion 360 because I can't just keep going to Thingiverse and printing stuff. So it's like I have to go learn Fusion 360. Like, it's the thing you have to learn if you're doing 3D printing. And I took a course on Skillshare by Vlad Mariano of Desktop Makes, and he has a course called Fusion 360 for 3D printing.
Cool.
And that course was everything for me. Like, I learned, it was every gap that I had in my processes was filled in with that course.
That sounds fun.
And I've
Well,
learned a lot since. I mean, I didn't learn everything in that course, but I learned so much that I was able to model things and to be able to start with an idea in my head and then have a thing that actually looks like what it did in my head. Like, I feel like that's like the holy grail, even with Adobe Illustrator or something. Like, you have a design in your head, and it's like, you know, even if you just do a quick sketch, it's like, okay, I know what I want this to look like. And you open up the app and you don't have the skills to
mm,
translate that idea digitally. That's just torture. Like, I think it's torture to not be
yeah,
able to get your ideas out.
yeah, just to have it kind of like stuck in your head and not be able to do anything with it. Like
Yeah.
it's so satisfying seeing like a little thumbnail sketch or just like an idea that you come up with and then just like producing the final product and being like, yes, okay, that is out there now. It's out of my
And
brain,
that
it's onto the paper.
totally. And then with like 3D printing, you know, to be able to, you know, you design something in Fusion 360 and you look at it on the screen and go, "Hey, I can actually like make this like
Yeah.
right now."
And,
Like
like,
I could
hold
just
it in your hands and
you
stuff, and
hold it
it's
in your hand.
so amazing to have, like, this thing that's on your computer screen and then just be able to, like, turn it around in your hands.
Do you like what other stuff do you want to learn? Because I feel like you have a very
Ooh.
one of the things I like about you is that you do a lot of stuff. Like you started really working with 3D modeling. You are an illustrator. I occasionally see your lino cuts, which are
Yep.
wild. Like that's something I've been watching videos on that of like block printing and stuff like that, and I'm like, I really want to give this like a legitimate go. Like, I want to try this. This looks
You
like fun.
definitely should. It is a lot of fun. Like, you just gotta keep your fingers out of the way because it's
Yes,
a
because
good way to
everything is
injure
very sharp.
yourself.
I watched
Um,
I watched a video the other day, and I was like, so that's how I was wondering how they transferred the designs.
yep,
And I was
like,
like, "Well, how'd
from
they do it?" And they use tracing paper, and they just flip the paper over, and that's how they mark it on the block, and then they cut it out that way, and I'm like, "That's so simple."
yeah.
Like, I was like, "Oh, I can't draw in reverse. What the hell am I supposed to do?" I was like, "Oh, no, nobody does."
Yeah. Well, I've been doing like I'd make the drawing in like Procreate or Photoshop
Mhm.
or something, and then flip it, print it out, and put like carbon paper down so that it like transfers it down. Like just draw over the top of your drawing, and carbon paper makes it go onto the block.
And then
It's
you just cut your block, and then you put the ink on, roll it, put the
yep,
paper on, and then brayer over the paper, and boom, instant.
suddenly
Dave Bauer, our my friend Dave Bauer actually did a course about this at Maker Camp, and he was teaching people how to do block printing. And then I was watching Justine Silva, who was also a guest on Because We Make. She had a video that I somehow missed of how to do it. And I'm watching this, I'm like, God, this process looks like so much fun. Like, why am I not doing this? Like, I want to do this. I don't know what I'm going to do it for. I don't know what I'm going to do it on. I don't know what I'm I just want to do it. Like it's like,
yeah,
no, I want to be my own print factory now.
yeah. Why not? I mean, just why not give everything a go? Hey.
And by the way, that's the mentality. I think that's the mentality that like people like you and I have, and I
Yeah.
don't mean just you and I, but I think that people like you and I and other people who are naturally creative people, I think that's the mindset, right? Why not try it? Like,
Yeah, and it's a good mindset to have as well because it's just like, yeah, you can it's the whole like do as much as you can. Like just
yeah.
give everything a shot and whatever sticks sticks.
I
Like,
love the phrase when I heard the phrase for the first time, when I heard the phrase skill collector,
yes.
it really hit me because I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want to be. Like
Yeah.
competent at a lot of I don't need to be an expert at anything, but I want to be competent at a lot of things.
Yeah, and I really enjoy like being like in my friend groups and stuff, being the person that has just a lot of kind of basic knowledge on a broad amount of things, and then like your friends come to you and they're like, "How do I do this?" And I'm just like, "Okay, so I can start you off,"
I'll
and
get
then
the
we're
ball
just gonna have
rolling for you.
yeah, and then we're gonna have to like research it a little more together just to like get to the final product. But I know a bit, and we can get started.
So we talked about having an adult role model when you're younger that that can make art mean something more than the thing you're not allowed to do for money.
Yep.
Um, but you also have to have supportive friends. So what is your
Mm.
friend group like, and how are they artistic, or are they just really supportive? Like what kind of people are you hanging out with these days, huh?
All of the good types.
All right.
So,
Awesome.
I would say my partner Sean is like the most like I mean, he's the person I hang out around the most.
Mhm.
But he's like fully supportive. Like the other day, he's just like, "Let's put a mural in another room." I'm like, "All right, let's do that." Um,
Good, you move
and
the furniture, I'll get the paint.
exactly. Let's go to Bunnings now.
For those of you
But
not in the know, Bunnings is the Australian version of Home Depot, just
yes.
so
It's the place to go on every weekend. But yeah, all my friends and stuff, I've got like, I would say they're all generally creative. Like, even if it's not their thing that they do like all the time or they haven't made a
Mhm.
job out of it or anything, they like making stuff.
That's
And
great.
going to uni, like doing the graphic and digital design course in uni as well, it's like naturally you meet creative people there. So it's like,
Did a lot of your friends I mean, I'm assuming you graduated.
yes, yep.
Okay. So, did you carry a lot of your friends after school? Like, are you still friends with a lot of those people,
A
or
handful. The close ones that,
okay.
the good ones to keep around. Yeah.
'Cause those end up I've found that a lot of people that go to school with, in like, a certain what's that word? The word a certain
Mm.
cohort, you end up after school, you kinda become each other's business connections. Has that happened for you?
Yeah, that's exactly it's actually been really good like that. Like, one of my friends from uni, she'll pass some graphic design jobs on to me every now and then, and I'm just like
Mhm,
more than happy to do it. Just like when she's overloaded, it's good. You can just kind of like if your workload's too much, you pass it around to
mhm.
somebody else. 'Cause we know we're all got the skills. We're all happy to do it.
Yeah, you can freelance for each other, it's great.
It's perfect. We're like our own little marketing team for each other.
Yeah, you're a creative agency, like,
Exactly.
Cole would you I got the name, ready? Cole Creative.
Oh, I like it. Yes.
It actually is really good because you could do, like, an interlocking C. I mean, nobody's ever done
Mm.
that before.
Yeah, haven't seen that one.
Do you I mean, since you do corporate graphic design, like, have you ever like, I've had this happen to me, so I can only imagine it's happened to you. Have you ever like, worked really hard on a logo, like, really been really happy with it, and then you show it to someone, and they go, "Isn't that the logo for blank?"
Yes. Yes. 100%.
I've
And
had
then
that
you just
happen more
die a
times than I
little
care to admit.
inside.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think that that's a given. If you work in, like, the corporate design space, it's gonna happen to you at some point.
It's funny because once you see it too, you go, "Of course it is. Why didn't I think of that?" Because your subconscious mind is constantly collecting information and, stimuli and stuff from your surrounding area, and sometimes you'll really, really, really take something in and not notice it
Yeah.
until someone else goes, "Wait a minute, that's the McDonald's logo, dude. Like, you didn't create that logo. Like, what's wrong with you?" And you're like, "Oh,
Oh,
yeah, it is,
yeah.
isn't it? Damn."
Well, every idea has to come from somewhere. Like, we're basically just like reusing the same ideas over and over. Like,
Sure.
just collect it, remix it, put something else out.
I did something at the day job. I was working on a project and I was really happy with the logo. And I was like, the the product was one of the letters in the name. And I was
Yep.
so excited about this. I'm like, this is so creative. Like, I turned the type perfectly. Like, everything looked amazing. I had perfect descenders. I had everything was great. I nailed it. I sent him the logo, and the first thing he says to me, he goes, "Why is there a milk carton in the logo?"
Oh, no.
I'm like, "A milk carton? What the hell is he talking about?" So I pull up the logo, I'm like, "Oh, man." Like, now I can't unsee that. Like, I was so happy with this logo, like, that's all I can see now. It's like there's a milk carton smack in the middle of it. It's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, can just use the letter, it'll be fine." I'm like, "Alright, fine."
But it
So
was such a cool idea.
I know. I was so happy with it too. I was like, "Look how creative I am. I used the product as one of the letters." And he's like,
Yeah.
"That's a milk carton." I'm like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, you're right. It is a milk carton.
Yeah.
Damn."
Let's take it back a step.
Who's aside from your thing of the week, which we'll get to obviously later on, but who do you watch on YouTube or Instagram? Like,
Yeah.
who are your influences there? Because I have a few that I find really interesting, so I imagine you must have even more.
Oh, so many, like, too many to list. But definitely a couple of them, like, I love, like, Max Wilkins' illustration. He's so detailed and just, like, you every time you look at it, you find something else inside the illustration.
Mhm.
Um, and, like, on YouTube, obviously, like, the big ones, like Jazza, um, of course.
Of course.
And, um, oh, man, when you try and think of them and they all just
Oh, you'll never
disappear
think
from your
of them, and then
mind.
when when we end this, you're gonna text me like 50 of them,
Yeah,
and you're gonna be like, "Of course, I
how could I
was
list all of these people?
It's interesting because I can think of, like, a bunch of people, but they don't really it's interesting. They're all, like, proper graphic designers, and I've just
Hmm,
learned like, let's see, there's Dansky, who everyone I think who's in our
mm,
space watches, Will Patterson,
mhm,
um Anne from Graphic Design How To, who is actually a guest on Because We Make. I started watching this guy, and I think his channel. I never remember his name because he has an Indian name. I'm not going to attempt it, but his channel name is Pix Imperfect. He does
okay.
YouTube tutorials. They're like 10-minute tutorials, and every single one of them is just a banger. It's just like I come away from it going, I could do anything in Photoshop today, like anything. You know him, Photoshop Cafe. Colin Smith is a really
Yeah.
good channel. There's so much, like, and I'm always finding new people. It's amazing how much is out there.
Yeah, so much. But I find that I tend to not watch as much like graphic design content as general kind of like maker and creator content. Like,
Oh,
I've been watching
interesting.
a lot of sculpting videos recently, which is really odd because I'm not really too good at sculpting myself, but
Oh
it's really
boy.
fascinating to watch.
Well, this is how it starts, right? You start watching someone do something over. That's how it started with me with 3D printers. I was
Yeah.
watching a lot of videos about 3D printers, a lot of videos about 3D printers, and then I watched them for about 4 months and then ordered one. I was like, "I'm ready." And I wasn't ready, but I had a
Uh,
3D printer.
I think you're more ready in the months after you've got the 3D printer. Like,
I agree.
you're never ready to start off with. It just takes a little bit figuring it out.
I
But yeah,
completely agree with that.
maybe in the next couple of months, maybe I'll have some sculpting stuff out there. We'll see.
Oh, totally. I could totally imagine you doing like, kinda like Ace of Clay type sculpting. Like, have
I would
you
love
I'm
that.
sure you watch his channel.
100%. And north of the border as well is one of the
North
other
of
ones
the
that
Border. Okay, fun fact, I discovered North of the Border, a couple of weeks ago, and then a friend of mine, when he did the Yoshi, the
Yep.
photorealistic Yoshi, sent it to me and like, because he knows I love Yoshi, and he sent me this, he goes, "You're gonna love this guy." I'm like, "I'm already watching, bro, we're good." It's like, he is oh my god, he is so good. He does for those of you that haven't seen this guy's work, he basically does like, he'll take some like Kirby. The Kirby was
Yeah.
unreal.
And it's like some realistic Minecraft characters and stuff as well, which is just like these are haunting. Like,
Yes.
these will haunt my nightmares now, but they're amazing.
When he did the Cobrat and Eakins, and it's
Yes,
like he actually went to, like, snake biology basically and was trying to make sure that the inside of the mouth looked like an actual snake mouth, and I'm like, "I love this guy. I
crazy
love this guy."
detail.
Even though he's Canadian, I still love this guy. That's a joke for our Canadian people that follow, but yeah, no, he's amazing. What a weird, and it's funny because these guys all develop these weirdly specific things. Like that Kirby, the Kirby he made is just horrifying. And
So horrifying.
his VO is great because he talks through his thought process. And one of the things he was talking is like, it's like, I imagine Kirby eating, and he's got this really proper voice. It's like, I imagine Kirby being the eater of souls. So of course we need to have a soul trying to escape from inside Kirby. And then he sculpts like a screaming like spirit coming out of Kirby's back, just a tiny one. But like if
Yeah,
you look real close at the details, it's like a face that's clearly yelling under Kirby's skin. And it's like, oh my god, this is so uncomfortable, but I love it.
so uncomfortable. And I love like when I'm watching those videos and like my partner walks past behind me and just sees like the Kirby face, like somebody like the face impressing Kirby's back, and it's just like, what are you watching?
Why is he evil? He's cute. Why is he evil?
No, that's even more perfect. It's just like the cute stuff has to be evil, right?
Of
Like you
course it
don't
does.
expect
It's a
it.
trap. It's always a trap. General Akbar knows it's always a trap. That's the way
Yep.
it works. It's so fun when I was my barometer for whether somebody was good at what they did is like if I could show someone who's completely uninterested in the subject matter that the work is still good, and like people like him would totally just look at it and go, I don't know one Pokemon from another, but you can look at the work and go, geez, like
Yep.
it's incredible what's I the level of work that everyone is putting out now. It just everyone needs to just you're constantly on edge. I almost feel like it's what creates this environment of my work is not worthy, even though
Yeah.
most people that have the courage to say, I want to show others my work, probably are making work that's worthy. Nobody's making trash. If you're making
Well,
trash, you probably know you're making trash and you're not going to put it out there. If you're
yeah.
willing to put it out there, it's pretty good. But man, it's not competitive, but there's like that pressure all the time.
There's so much stuff out there, and it's very easy to compare yourself and your quality to what everybody else is doing.
Do you find that a little bit easier because your style is super unique? Like you don't I can't imagine like you're not competing with people that do photorealistic drawing. You're not competing with people that do crazy color work. your stuff is your style is your brand.
Yeah.
Like that it's the most clear example I know of, among the people I know where your style is your brand. And if
Yeah.
you did something that wasn't of your style, it would look wrong. Like it
Oh,
wouldn't be like.
yeah.
Have you thought about that? Like, do you feel like, because what you've kind of branded yourself and the way you've kind of progressed, do you feel like you're limiting yourself in any way, or are you just like, whatever, we'll figure it out?
I feel like I have to like because of that style being so defined, I feel like I have to separate like my illustration and stuff from the more kind of like graphic design work because of it.
Hmm.
Like they have to be two totally separate things. But in terms of like the more like, creative illustration and all of that stuff, I have like the occasional thought of, oh, maybe I should try a different style, but instead I just kind of end up working in very slight differences instead. So
Hmm.
rather than like making a drastic change, I'm kind of like making gradual changes over time.
So you evolve it so that you're doing something else later on. You
Yeah.
just take a slower turn that way.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's no pressure as well. It's just kind of like, oh, I know kind of what I'm doing. I know how to do the style that I'm doing at the moment. So just the gradual changes doesn't put a lot of pressure on me to just kind of like have to learn that totally different style instantly and,
Sure,
be good at it instantly. Because you can just kind of gradually implement it and
of
watch it
course.
evolve.
The consensus with the people I know, that are various makers that have various skill sets, the consensus is that, restrictions, and I'm not, obviously yours isn't a restriction, it's just your style, and your
Mm.
style is what it is. But, restrictions, especially creative ones, tend to bring out your best work.
Yeah.
And I
If
was just
there's
wondering if you feel the same way.
if there's no restrictions, like if I get a project and I'm just kind of like, no restrictions, do whatever you want, I'm just kind of like overwhelmed with the amount of different options and stuff that there is to do because I'm just like, oh, I need some kind of brief.
Do you ever pull something out? Do you ever pull something out? Because like I said, I know we've talked about your style a lot, but do you ever pull something out that's not your style and show it to someone? They go, "I didn't know you could do that." Like, wow, that's
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I drew my cats like, oh, it would have been about 6 months or so ago now, but I drew my cats in like pencil and like no, not the style that I usually do. I tried to do them like, more realistic and stuff. And it's not
Hmm.
perfect. But I showed my partner and he's just like, oh man, that's different. They look good. It's just like
Dang.
unexpected.
That's different. They look good, as opposed to Sean. Sean.
Yep.
Sean. Choose your words carefully here, Sean.
Exactly. This could bite you back, bite you in the
Yeah,
butt later.
the next thing you say is very important for this relationship, Sean.
Very. Yeah. Be careful because I'm cooking dinner tonight and you don't know.
I know where the medicine cabinet is, and I know where the stove is. Just remember, if you want to wake up tomorrow morning, you're going to say the right thing, and I'm not telling you what the right thing is, my friend.
Uh, nah, he's good. He's supportive of everything. But yeah, it was interesting like, having to go with that other style. It was now he's got them on his desk all the time, so I must have done something
Oh,
right
that's
there.
great. Yeah, totally, totally. I love that you have that ability, because a lot of people, they lock themselves into a certain style, and then like there's a couple of YouTubers, I won't name them by name because what I'm going to say isn't particularly, it's not bad, but they have a style, and everything is that style. Like
Yeah.
everything. Like they will shoehorn things into their style.
Mm,
And I understand why they do it, because it's expected, right? If I go to a person's channel, there's one artist in particular I follow, and everything she does is this one style. I like her style, but
mm.
it's like, and it's not even that it's predictable. It's just that, like, oh, yeah, I kind of have a rough idea where you're gonna go with this one. Like, she has, every once in a while she'll do, like, she has one of those sets of card prompts, or she'll just shuffle them up and put four down and then draw it. And I'm like, in my head, I've watched her videos long enough where I can almost go, I know what that's gonna look like.
Yeah.
And I could get like, if I sketched it on paper before her, I would be in the ballpark. Like I would be like close. Maybe it
Yeah.
wouldn't look as good, but it would be, the idea would be clearly, I understood what her mind was going to put on paper. Um, I
Yeah.
always find that interesting.
It's kind of cool though that they can work in that style so consistently as well, and like
That's true too.
to the point of predictability almost because it's like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'd get maybe a little bit bored if I was just doing the same thing constantly. Where it's just like that's why I was like, I need to expand into something different now. Give something else a
Yeah.
shot. But I do kind of like still commend those people for being able to stick with it and produce
Yeah.
consistent work.
I don't have that ability. I'm not gonna lie. Like, if
No.
I would not be able to do, 5 years worth. If I was drawing stuff, I wouldn't be able to draw in the same style for 5 years. I wish I could draw in any style, but I would settle for being able to draw anything, and I would draw it for 20 years if I could, but I don't really have any drawing ability. I have really good photography skills. I have decent graphic design skills, and I have okay 3D modeling skills, and I'm perfectly fine with that combination. It works
Oh,
for me
your
and I get
drawing's
by.
getting there too, though. Like some of the drawings and stuff that you did for was it last year? That you
Oh,
had a
for
couple.
Inktober?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so that's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because I realized this year, like, it was like the 20th, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, it's October," and I did nothing for Inktober this year, but
it just kind of flew by this year.
really
It's
did.
come and gone real fast.
But I did Inktober that way. I did it with Procreate as a way to learn Procreate. Like, that was my
Mm,
goal, to come out of Inktober knowing how to use Procreate, and now I do. Like,
mm,
now I can take Procreate and just draw with it, and I don't need to use physical media anymore. And it's
yeah.
nice because, the pipeline is you make it in Procreate, and then you bring it into Illustrator, and you do your line work and your color work in Illustrator, but you do the drawing part in Procreate, and it's just so nice to work that way.
Yeah, it's really nice to have like a digital sketchbook kind of thing. Like it's easier than carrying around paper and a pen all the time or
Sure.
something, like if you've got an idea.
And, the other thing is that the media that they've created, they call them brushes, but it's not really brushes.
Mm.
They're like it's like carrying around gouache, acrylic
Oh
paint,
yeah.
oil paint, charcoal, pencils, crayons.
Airbrush. They got
Yeah,
everything.
it's wild how good they are. Like,
Yeah.
I've used brush sets that I've paid for in Photoshop, they're just not as good.
No, they've got such a wide range and the textures as well. Like I've been using that canvas background texture that just kind of like makes all your stuff look like it's painted onto a canvas and
Interesting.
it's really well done.
I've not toyed with the textures in it at all. I bought, like, 2 or 3 brush sets, including Jazz's new one, which he's right, it's incredible.
Oh, that's on my
Um,
list. I need to get that.
I watched the video and I'm like, "You know what?" I downloaded it. I waited, like, a couple of weeks. I didn't even install it right away. I just downloaded. I'm like, "It's Jazza. I'm not a patron, but I love the dude's work. I'll just support him."
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was I threw it in Procreate just to try it because normally I would put it in Photoshop first, but I put it in Procreate and I'm like, wow, these are awesome. Like, I did a couple of quick things, mostly using the brushes. I'm like, oh my God, like, these are better than the default brushes.
Oh man, and
And
that's saying something as well. Like
yeah, and
the default
that's what's
brushes are
crazy.
perfect.
That's what's crazy about Procreate. Like, a lot of people have asked me, like, hey, is there anything like Procreate? No.
No,
Adobe Fresco might be the only thing that even comes close, and it's not.
it's still quite far away from it.
Yeah. So you use, let's see, you use Fusion 360, you use Illustrator, you use Photoshop,
Yep.
and Procreate.
Yep.
Any other cool tools in the toolbox there?
Oh, I use XD a lot for my work, like creating wireframes and stuff for websites.
You listen,
Um,
make tutorials on XD because they all stink. I've tried to
yeah,
learn
they're
it
not
multiple
great.
times. I have use for it. I can't I can't understand it. I don't know why. I just don't understand it. It's like a black box for me. So
It's interesting because it's slightly different to the rest of the Adobe programs. Like all the shortcuts and stuff is slightly different, but it's not as easily learnable
clearly
as
wasn't
like
it
jumping from Photoshop
It's
to
like
Adobe.
Dimension. Dimension also was clearly not
Mm,
made by Adobe. Like, it
no,
just wasn't, because it doesn't act like an Adobe app, it doesn't look like an Adobe app. The one thing I always liked about Premiere, Illustrator, Photoshop, Lightroom, and Audition is they all feel like the same person made them. Like, even Premiere, as you're working, V is the arrow.
mm,
It's like the same as it is in every Adobe app. V is the arrow. All right, granted, R is the razor instead of C to cut, but okay, fine, I get it. But
yeah.
you know, you
The
you could
the
pick.
main shortcuts are the same though. Like you
They
can
do this.
learn it easy enough because you know the other programs. It's
Yeah, your hands, because muscle memory is a big deal. The one thing that people that don't use Adobe apps don't understand is that keyboard shortcuts are everything.
oh
If
yeah,
if you're moving the mouse to a menu, you're doing something wrong. There's a
Yeah,
keyboard shortcut for literally every command in every Adobe app. You just have to
yeah,
know them.
yeah. A massive time saver. Just
Mhm.
so good.
Mhm. And that's the cool part of that's why I stay, I'm an Adobe fanboy. You and I were joking about the other day. I was like, "Hey, I pay entirely too much for it, but they make me money, so it's fine."
Yeah,
But yeah, it's that cross application language stuff it's the best. It's what makes it for someone like me who lives in all their apps. All like usually when I set up a new computer, it's like the first thing that goes on is Microsoft Office, and the second thing that goes on is the full Creative Suite. Like I have
yeah,
all the apps on my computer at any given time.
yeah. Even like the ones that I don't really like use that often or anything, I've still got them downloaded. Like if
I
they're
have
in the
them for
Creative
later.
Cloud, may as well download it.
There's going to be days like I was working on something for a major national client at the day job, and it was like we need a mock-up of what this would look like as as a package. Now,
Oh
there are
yeah.
easier ways to do mock-up that I've since learned. I was like, well, what the hell am I meant to do? And I thought about it, and I'm like thinking like, okay, how can I do this? How can I do this? And I ended up doing it in Dimension. And it
Oh,
was an app that I just installed because I was like, yeah, that's a cool thing that I might want to tinker with at some point. And wow, like the results were they got the results and they're like, wait, did they thought we actually photographed this box and had it made at a printer? And I'm like, that's a digital rendering. There is no box.
mm,
And it's just that good at what it does.
yeah. Well,
But
that's kind of like what it's made for, isn't it? Like being able to do
yeah,
that kind of stuff. I wish I had a reason to use it more, honestly, but like,
unfortunately, they think it was like last year they made it like an additional app now. It's not part of the Creative Suite anymore. So
oh really?
if you
Oh no.
had the older versions, you still have them. But every version newer than I think last year now, you don't get them anymore. We don't get
Ah,
them.
that
We're
sucks.
we're plebs. We don't get Dimension anymore. So what is the next thing for you? Like what are you looking forward to? Like I know you've been working really hard on the market and now the market's over cuz that was your very
Yep.
successful weekend. For those of you it's the album art, her standing in front of her table. But what's next for you? Like what are you working on? I know you're probably going to be ramping things up toward the end of the year. Are you still taking
Yeah.
commissions or
So yeah, still taking commissions. Still got a couple more markets coming up as well. And when I've got some free time, I really want to try casting metal. Like I
Ooh,
really want
pewter
to give it a
casting is
shot.
fun. Pewter casting is fun. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. It's surprisingly fun. Your first few are gonna suck. It's just the
I'm
way it
okay
is.
with that. I feel like it's like that with anything. The first few things of whatever it is, they're not going to be great. But
Pewter, it's even worse. As bad as you think
okay.
everything's ever been, pewter is honestly the first results I got were so bad that I was like, I don't even want to do this anymore. But I
Yeah,
kept doing it, and I was like, oh, now I understand why they were bad. And once you understand why your results suck, they stop sucking.
yeah. You
So
just got to do it a couple times and figure out what's going wrong and go from there. But I've got all the supplies for it. They're all just sitting there, just waiting for me to have the time to do it. But
nice.
just just gotta get the time. And yeah, I've got some ideas though. Got what
Oh,
plenty of
excellent.
ideas.
Someone what Beck is teasing is that at some point she's probably gonna start making jewelry because
Oh
that's the
yeah.
only reason you ever start metal casting. And I can only imagine now my mind is spinning because I'm thinking like, "Oh, wow, your art in jewelry form would be freaking amazing."
The thing that I am most excited about, and I guess this is a little bit of a teaser for it too. What the first
Ooh,
couple projects I want to do for it is I want to make tiny sword earrings, like just like
love
the
it.
swords that I draw my characters holding as earrings and pendants and stuff like that. I think that would be awesome. So
Oh boy.
we'll see how we go. It's going to take a little while, I think. So no time frame on that one.
I can't wait. I that is awesome. There's one oh here it is. I'm scrolling through your feed as we're talking. There's one you did that I just love and I keep going back to it because it's one of my favorite things you made. It's the little sword with like the red circle in the middle and the
Yep.
points. It's just a beautiful piece and it's like
Thank you.
I just love it. I love the way you're able to. It's actually now that I just realized it's the sword behind you on your wall. It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same sword.
I love that sword design so much. I printed that one out as like some keychains as well, and they're gone. They're sold.
You're bringing your stuff into the real world's got to be kind of wild because
It,
your stuff doesn't have a lot of dimensionality on paper, and then you got to figure out not just how to get the shape but where to put dimensionality and where to turn shading into bevels and stuff
yeah,
like that. Like, does
it's
that
such
freak you out a little bit, or?
it, it's such a good challenge, honestly. Like, I don't get as freaked out about it as I thought I would, like when I was initially starting it all. I'm just kind of
Mhm.
like, man, this is a challenge and I love it. I'm gonna work towards it and we're gonna get this final sword and it's gonna be good.
Do you surprise like have you done anything that you just surprised yourself, like you went, wow, like
Yes.
maybe it was like on the first try you nailed something, or something that you just didn't think you'd be able to pull off and you did, and it's like, I'm just gonna do a victory lap, I'm done for today.
Honestly, the mural. The mural was my big like, man, I did
you,
that and that worked.
you
Like
actually did a YouTube video about the mural.
my only YouTube video.
Your only YouTube video. By
Very
the
abandoned channel.
So I don't think we even discussed how we met, because it's kind of funny. So last year around Christmas time, I put out the call on Because We Make, and I said, if you sell anything and you have an e-commerce store or something similar, let me know, because I had a page on the Because We Make website. I may do that again this year because I got a really nice response from it, and I did hear people say that, hey, somebody found me through the page. So I was like, oh, great! Even if I made one sale, then it was worth it.
Mm,
Um, but you messaged me and you're
yeah.
like, "Hey, I'm a fan of the podcast, and here's my page. If you could put it up, I would love it." And I'm like, "The hell are you?" Like, I literally thought that, like, because I had never seen like a comment from you. I'd never seen a post, and that's when I started looking at your work, and I'm like, "Holy crap, her stuff is so cool. Like, where did she come from?" And that's how we got to know each other. I'm like, "Yeah, of course I'll put you in. Your stuff is amazing. Holy crap!" And I was so into it.
Yeah,
How
I
did
was a
how
bit of
did you even find the podcast? Like, what's that story like? Because I don't think I've ever asked you that, and I was just realizing, like, we met in a weird way because
a
you were
very
following the podcast before I knew who you were.
yeah. I felt a bit weird about that message. I'm just like, oh, is this weird to like message you to like put my stuff on that thing? But
That's what I
started
asked
a
for.
yeah, started conversations, and I love talking to you now. So
Yeah, no,
um,
I love that I have so many friends around the world, and I'm like, it's so cool that we're just like buddies now, and it's like, yeah, no, I like her a lot. Like, that's why I was like, when I'm rebooting this, I'm like, okay, I have to think of guests that would be a good fit for the show, because I do have a pretty wide, even though it sounds narrow, I left myself a lot of wiggle room where I can shoehorn someone into the format. But
yeah,
for you, it was like, no, I'm going to have her on. Like, we were going to have you on Because We Make, and then the show ended. So it was like, all right, well, you know what? Instead of ending a podcast, she could start one. So,
that's yeah. I was absolutely amazed when you asked me. Honestly, I was so excited. But I think I found you were one of the first making podcasts that I ever listened to.
oh,
I was
nice.
I was kind of primarily like listening to music and stuff when I worked. I'm just like, my playlists are getting very repetitive. Let's see what's out
Yeah.
there in the podcast world instead. Um,
Wow.
and I think I just Googled like making podcasts and came across like a list, and yours was on it, making it was on it, working hands, and
That's a
Clampcast.
that's a great list of podcasts, by the way. Those are
Yeah,
four great podcasts.
I love them all, and especially Clampcast is probably my second favorite. Like yours would be my favorite, then Clampcast.
You heard that right,
Um,
Grant, Morley, and Adam. You heard that right. You heard what she said. Okay, just want to make sure. Just want to
just
make
gotta
sure.
shout that out there. But yeah, so I was listening to you for a while when Ethan was your co-host,
Hmm.
and yeah, when you put that call out, I'm just like, man, this is the perfect time for me to message you, and start that communication, because I'm not very good at like messaging people out of the blue. So when you put that call out, I'm just like, all right, I have a reason to message him now.
Sure.
Let's do
Sure.
it.
The one thing that when you're doing this, when you're doing any kind of media, like whether you're YouTube, whether it's Instagram, whatever, when you're chatting with people all the time, the weird thing that happens is you think you know your whole audience. And every once in a while, someone will come up to you and go, "Yeah, it happened to me at Maker Camp. Someone came up to me and said, he was a fan of the podcast." And I'm like, "I don't really know who you are." Like,
That's
and that's
amazing.
awesome. Like, that's not a bad thing. That means that means that it's growing. It's like when you're selling
Yeah.
things and the first order you get from someone that isn't friend or family is a big deal.
Massive deal. There's definitely always like silent watchers out there that are just kind of
Mhm.
like watching what you're doing and not commenting or just kind of like liking your things every now and then. But it's really awesome when people actually start like talking to you and come out the
Sure.
blue.
Have you, I know you're in Melbourne.
Yes.
Are you staying there? Have you thought about, like, I don't know, have you ever thought about leaving, moving somewhere else? Like, I know everybody has that wanderlust, especially the artsy creative types. They always wanna be on the move. Like, are you just happy you've put down your roots and you're staying where you are?
Honestly, I love Melbourne.
Okay.
I don't think I would move. Like we're in the outer suburbs where we live, so we're just kind of
Mhm.
like out of the hustle and bustle of Melbourne, but just kind of like close enough that we can, have our day trips there, do the markets there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I absolutely love where I live. I wouldn't change it.
Nice. Nice. We were joking about a YouTuber who moved out of Melbourne to, where did he go? Oh,
So
where do we to
Queensland,
Brisbane.
Brisbane, yeah.
Brisbane. He went to Brisbane, and I was like, "Why?" And you're like, "I don't know."
So many people have been moving to Brisbane from Queensland recently. I'm just no, to Brisbane from Melbourne. Sorry, I was just like, oh man, goodbye everyone, but I'm gonna stay right here.
There's growth opportunities in this town, I'm telling you.
Honestly, like the art stuff here as well is just so good. Melbourne has such a good arts culture. Like if
Oh, that's
you're
great.
making anything, there's a spot for you here.
That's gotta be nice, like, when you're in a when you have a skill that your community is, like, really into. That's gotta be a nice feeling.
Such a nice feeling, and there's so many like events and stuff that are just like celebrating all of the different skills and stuff as well. Like it's
And your art in particular is very, like, positive and happy, and it's
nice, hi.
fantastical, it's cheerful, like, you're not afraid to use ridiculously bright colors, and
Oh no, I like to say that I'm just kind of like living like a unsupervised 5-year-old. So that's what my art comes across as.
it's so good though, because it's just as the more I've gotten to know you over the last year or so, the more I realize, like, your art is a reflection of your personality, and you don't often see that. Sometimes you go, "Oh, wow, you're the person that makes that art. That's interesting."
Yeah.
But with you, it's like, "No, this is her. Like, this is her in sketch form."
Yeah, this is 100% me. And the characters and stuff that I've been doing recently, like they've been having like blue hair, purple hair. It's just like these are literally
Self-insert,
me.
self-insert, self-insert.
Yep. Exactly. It's just like this is me as a mermaid. This is me as a person that can have a sword.
And what you just heard, everyone, was called dropping all pretense. Becca's like, "No, I'm not even pretending it's not me. It's me,
It's
okay?
100% me.
Like, you don't understand. At night, I have mermaid pajamas that I wear."
Very close. They've got unicorns.
There you go. See, it had to be. It had to be. It had to be something colorful and
Yeah,
fantastical because that's your personality.
it's
And
just
if you're not
right.
watching the video, you have to see she has the most awesome purple hair, and
Thank you.
everybody that knows me or has known me for any length of time knows that I have a major soft spot for girls with really insane hair colors.
There's something about people with bright hair. I love it. It's just like it's a talking point.
It's
It's
it's an
fun.
it's like an artist thing. It just kinda is, like, I just feel like, it's like taking one part that people are too scared to make a piece of, like, a
Yeah.
canvas, and going, "Nope, this too." Like,
Yep.
some people, like, I have an artist friend who has tons of tattoos, and they're all just like, we're not talking like prison tats where it's like an outline, it's like low effort stuff. I'm talking like, I mean, you have to give up a weekend to get that one done,
Just
It's
insanely detailed.
yeah, that's "Oh, what visit are you on to get that?" "Oh, I'm on my 16th visit just to, do the do you go to look at one, it's like, "How many visits?" "Oh, that was 4 visits. One was just shading." It's like, I don't know.
That's so much time, but
You
I
know?
bet they look amazing.
They do, and they totally do, and they're just super incredible, and then, you see people go, "Yeah, I'm just more of a color person," and, the hair just like, today it's
Yep.
purple, and then next week it's green, and then a couple of weeks from now it'll be blue, and it's like, "Oh, she's
Yep.
the blue-haired, purple-haired, green-haired person."
When the roots start coming out, it's time to go a different color.
That's called opportunity.
Exactly.
You know, we have an opportunity to plug some people that we like or some things that we like, and I like to
Sounds
call
good
that
to me.
things of the week, a blatantly stolen segment, but I still love doing it. Um, Beck, what's your thing of the week?
My thing of the week is Sam Dawson. Or so his Instagram is Sam Drawson, which I absolutely love that he's put the word
Clever as
draw
hell, by the way.
into his
Clever as
name.
hell.
So good. And his illustrations are just amazing. Like they're youthful, they're vibrant. They inspire me so much.
When you sent me his Instagram, I'm like, oh, I totally like your vibe is so similar, even though your color palette's very different. It was the first
Yeah,
thing I noticed. His color palette is much more muted and warm, and
yep,
yours are more vibrant, bright, and kind of just you used the term earlier, children's book, and I was like,
yeah,
yeah, that yours is more like a children's book. His is more like a retro style almost,
yeah,
like a aged style.
yeah. Definitely get those vibes from it. Yeah,
I
but
love it.
his style and like the line art and stuff's just so clean and so nice.
Very good stuff. Yeah, Sam Drawson on Instagram. He's at 10,000 followers. My God.
Yeah. Oh man,
Wow.
wouldn't that be nice?
Isn't it great though that you can tell me about somebody I've never heard of a guy that has 10,000 followers. It's like, wow, that's a guy that I am like definitely going to follow now because like I
Yeah.
like his vibe. It's like he reminds me in a weird way his color selection reminds me of Paloma the Peach. Have you seen her stuff?
No, I haven't seen her stuff.
Oh my
I
god,
will be
she's
looking that
fantastic.
up.
She's fantastic. It's not so much the style, it's the colors.
Yep.
Like that warm, yeah, it's really weird. You start noticing things like that. It's like it's not the work, it's the colors. The colors, it's where the colors meet.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you start to realize you're actually an artist of some kind. You know,
Yeah,
when
when you start picking out like the smaller details from it, just like the
yeah.
colors or the lines or the way people do eyes or smallest thing.
Yeah, I've noticed there's like I see it with his stuff too. There's this one thing I love with his style, and I see it in a couple of different like this line arty type style, where the arms are very rigid, like
Yeah.
they're L's. Like the elbow is just an L. It's
Yeah.
there's no curve to the character. The character is just straight line, straight line, straight line. And then the only part that's got curves usually is like the face, the head, and the ears, but everything else is very angular, and I love
Yeah,
that
so
kind of stuff.
cool.
I just like that style. I think it looks cool, but
Yeah, I think it's a very fun style. Like it fits in with I don't know, all of the other art on my walls.
I meant to ask you, and it's funny because I don't keep a list of questions. I just kind of go where the conversation goes, and I meant to
Yeah.
ask you something, and now we're talking about style. How did you develop your style? Because it is super unique. It's a
Yeah.
combination of a bunch of things, but it is super unique. How did you get to your style?
Man, it's really hard to tell exactly how we got to like where it is at the moment, but um like when I look at it over the last couple of years, it has changed so much in just like since uni to now. Um but I think I just kind of started off with just like, I like basic shapes. We're just
Hmm.
gonna draw like a circle head and we're gonna connect it to a circle body. And then we just kind of developed it from there.
That's what I am when I look in the mirror, a circle head and a circle body. Like, I totally see that. I feel seen.
Representation.
Exactly.
um, yeah, and it's just try new things here and there, just like adding in like let's change the ears, developed it onwards. Let's change like the eyes and the smile and add the noodly arms.
The noodly arms. I've gotta I think I might just I mean, I wanna use it. I wanna use it. And you did a piece of art, for those of you, this is some inside information that I can share now because it's not gonna happen in the way it was intended. But Beck did a caricature of Brooke and I that was gonna be on merch for Because We Make. And it was Brooke and I with noodly arms and big pupils, and it was in and I have been meaning to get around to it. Now I finally know how to use the tools to do it, but to make it just me. And
Yeah,
I'm very excited because I really want to use it somewhere. Like I love that caricature of me. And I've sent it to people and they go, "Oh wow, who did that?" I was like, "That's my friend Beck did that." I'm like, "That's
I'm
awesome."
glad that you love it. I was so happy with how that turned out, and when you said that you love it as well, I'm just like, yes, I'm
Oh,
so glad.
yeah, I gave you like no guidance, no assistance. I was like, "Yeah, just your style, me, her, do it."
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You got pictures of you guys? Yeah, here's one. I was like, I'm like, I'm like, you're being a jerk. Like, you're a jerk client. You're giving her nothing to work with, and then you come back with it. I'm like, nailed it. Just make her logo white instead of black, and we're good. Like, that
Yeah.
was it. I think that was the only thing I said was like, make her logo white. That was the
Yeah.
only thing that was changed.
But you guys had like photos of yourselves on Instagram as well. So even though
That's
you gave
true.
me one photo, there was a couple more to work from.
Nah, that's all right. Beck's a professional stalker, just like me.
Oh
That's
yeah, I'm
awesome.
really good at stalking.
So your style just kind of evolved, and the color work and all that, the line work, it just kind of just
Yeah.
became your
Um,
thing.
it's honestly really hard to tell like exactly how we got there. It's just evolved over yeah, years.
You ever look at it and go, how the hell did I get here? Like,
Yeah. Some of my most recent ones and I'm just like, "Damn, man, like the little bits of detail in that, I'm so happy, but how are we here now? How did this happen?"
I did notice something in your more recent one. You did a girl recently on your Instagram, and she had like green hair and a
Yep,
sword. And
yep.
that was one that looked more refined than your typical stuff. Like, she didn't have the noodle arms, which was kind of
Yeah.
interesting. And
That
it just seemed more like you had something in mind with her rather than just like, I'm gonna make something in my style.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that was also a little bit of, like it had been maybe a couple of weeks since I'd actually drawn with that
Hmm.
one as well, and I'm just like, "I wanna draw again," because I've been
Hmm.
doing the 3D modeling and market prep and all of that kind of stuff, so we need to get back into the digital art. So, that was a much more planned out one, like, that started with the thumbnail, whereas most of it like, the thumbnail sketch and then develops into the final thing, whereas most of them are just kind of like, "I'm gonna just start sketching and we'll see where it goes."
I love it. I love it. Um, so since we're doing things of the week, I just realized like, oh no, I actually got so excited to talk about your style. I forgot to do my thing of the week. But my
Yeah.
thing of the week, if you watch my YouTube channel, a couple of days ago, I posted a equipment test video. It was I was testing out my new wireless mic. I got the DJI mic, which I've recommended to a million people and didn't own myself. Now I do. And the my friend recommended the Canon M50 as a video camera for YouTube. And you know what? It's a really good recommendation because the quality off that camera is insane. It's way better than I expected. And as far as size and weight, it's tiny. It's not, it looks like an SLR on like Best Buy's website and Amazon's website. When you get it in your hand, it's much, much smaller, and it has interchangeable lenses. It's a mirrorless camera, and I got the adapter to use my Rebel lenses on it. So this body, theoretically, I could get rid of my two Rebels and just keep the lenses and have just this camera, which I won't do because I like my Rebels. I might get rid of one of them now, but yeah, this is a great little camera. I'm super happy with it. And in fact, today in my shop, as we record this October 30th, today I actually did the first YouTube video, like proper YouTube video with it. It's a wonderful camera. The video quality, it does 4K 24, which is cinematic 4K, which I'm not interested in doing that. And it doesn't do 4K 30. So it maxes out for 4K at 24 frames, but it does incredibly high bandwidth 1080p 60, and it looks awesome. My
Mm.
test for everything is I watch it on the Apple TV, and if it looks good on the Apple TV, good, let's roll with it. And this looked really good on the Apple TV. It sounded really good on the Apple TV. So I'm very happy with the new equipment. That's why the YouTube channel is coming back, because I'm finally have the equipment to really do some YouTube now. So I'll
Mm.
have the link to it in the show notes. In the United States, it's $6.99 on Best Buy's website just for the camera. I got the vlogging creator kit from Canon, so it has the tripod with the remote on it, and the shotgun mic, and one other thing. I don't remember what the other thing was. Great little kit. It was like $8.99. A lot of value in the kit. I would highly recommend just get the kit. You get all the cool stuff with it, and you'll have everything you need going forward. But it's a great camera. Very happy with it. And the YouTube channel is going to get a lot of love. You know who else gets a lot of love though? The
Who would
people
that
who
be?
the people who support the show financially. Yay, because we love the people that support the show financially. We love them so much that there is actually the Hall of Fame page is back on the website. I got that fixed up this weekend. So, the people who support this show financially and deserve all the love in the world are Matthew Serio of Artigiano Serio. Big Al Schultz of New York Woodworks is now officially a subscriber. Tori Decker from Tori Did It. Ed Swanson of Ed's Clocks and More. Jake Drews of Make with Jake. Megan Chris from Onyx Design Studios. Jeff Stein, a.k.a. A Weird Guy. Kim and Garrett from Kim and Garrett Make It. Rory Langefeld of RLL Woodworks and DIY. Robert J. Keller. Rebekah Cole of Beck C Designs. Brian Arsenault, Seven Hills Maker, and Lars Coleman of Colorado Multicraft, along with Jeremy Speece. You guys are the absolute best, and I appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can go to vincentmferrari.com/support to do so, where you can pick your subscriber tier. There's 4 of them. We make it real easy, and I don't go through a third party, so I get all that cash. If you can't support the show financially, that's fine too. A review is just as good. If you go to the Hall of Fame page, which is vincentmferrari.com/hall-of-fame, there's 2 buttons at the bottom. You can support, it'll take you to the subscribe page, or you can leave a review through a service I use that makes it real easy to find a place you can actually put one. So I would appreciate either one of them. I know a lot of you left them for Because We Make, and that's why people actually come on this show. So if you have a moment and you'd like to review Digitally Creative, now that we're in episode 3, I would absolutely love that. I think that's going to do it for this week. Beck, you are awesome. And it has been so nice chatting with you.
Thank you for having me on. It's been really good actually talking to you as well, rather than just like Instagram message.
I mean, that's our primary form of communication. And it's really, I was like, are we going to have like anything to say? Like, are we going to be able to do it like a podcast? Like,
Yeah.
this, our conversations may stretch out over the course of a couple of days because it's, it's text. But it
Yeah.
was like, no, we're gonna do this. And then of course you start worrying, like, are we gonna have enough bandwidth for video? And like, no, it
Yeah.
seems like everything. Actually, your video is the best of anybody who's been on the show so far. It's the first time the video didn't wig out, and I'm panicking because I hope I turned on video before we started recording. So if there's no video version of this podcast, the answer is no, you didn't, dummy. Why not?
Well, fingers crossed for that one. So
yes, exactly. But thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Where can people go to find more of your work and more of your stuff? And follow her, guys. Follow her. She's criminally underfollowed on Instagram. Follow her.
Instagram would be the main place I would say is like where I post the most regularly. So that's beck.c.design.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I have a website if you want to check that out at all as well. You can buy my stuff.
Yes, buy her stuff. Absolutely buy her stuff. She'll you ship everywhere. You don't just ship to Oz. You ship everywhere.
I ship everywhere.
There you go. She ships everywhere.
No,
guys, she's shipping from Australia. Look how dedicated she is. Isn't that worth something?
I want everyone everywhere to have some of my stuff.
Everyone should have some of her cheery, funky, trippy art. And I am so glad to call you a friend. I'm so glad that we met, and I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to chat, and that we had this opportunity to put you in front of a few people that may not have known about you. So I hope a bunch of people swarm your page right now to see more of your stuff.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to me as well that you asked for me to come on. And,
oh, 100. It was a no-brainer. The only reason you didn't come on sooner is because that ended. But seriously, thanks for stopping by, and thank you all of you for listening. There would be no show if it wasn't for listeners, and I appreciate all of you. And until next week, where I don't even know who the guest is anymore because I don't record these in order. We just figure it out as we go. I said this was episode 3 just now. This could be episode 5. I have no idea. But you know what? Whatever number it is, it'll be back next week, and I hope you'll join me. Until then, have a great week, everybody, and we'll talk to you then.